Steve, what is your philosophy of diving?
To enjoy it. I dive because I get so much pleasure from it. So when I get in the water, I want to feel comfortable. I want to feel like I'm enjoying the dive. And I find the simpler I make things, the more I enjoy the dive. So I have a very minimalist approach to diving in general. That includes everything, but specifically equipment configuration. The cleaner and simpler my equipment, the easier it is for me to use. The less I notice it while I'm diving, the easier my dives become, the more comfortable I am, the more I enjoy the dive. And also, because of those factors, I'm actually safer as well. So if you're struggling while you're diving, then you're going to be a little bit stressed, and that's not going to be ideal. You're not going to be enjoying the dive as much as you possibly could. You're not going to be perhaps as safe as you possibly could be. So you really need to think about what's causing you to struggle and causing that stress, and try and minimize or eliminate that as much as possible. And that means looking at all aspects of your diving and all the components that come together to produce a good dive.
What makes a good diver?
Comfort in the water, and that comfort level comes from your basic or fundamental skills. So good buoyancy control, the ability to maintain neutral buoyancy no matter what depth you are in the water column. Being able to get your position right, so to trim yourself out so that you're nice and streamlined and that you're not struggling or fighting to hold a particular position while you're in the water. And being able to move effectively and efficiently, so having good propulsion techniques and having a nice streamlined equipment configuration which is not going to cause any unnecessary drag and impede you as you move through the water. Being properly weighted and having the right amount of buoyancy is very, very important as well. So if you've got your weighting adjusted right, most of the buoyancy control that you're going to be doing, you're going to just do with lung volume. So then you can really fine-tune things very accurately. So you should be perfectly neutrally buoyant. You should be trimmed in a horizontal position so that you can relax into that position, not have to fight to hold it. And then you should be using efficient propulsion techniques that move you through the water in a really controlled and efficient manner, just using your lungs for fine-tuning your buoyancy as you're moving through the water, and your BCD for gross changes in buoyancy if you do an ascent or a descent, for example, if you're adding a piece of equipment to your configuration or dropping a stage cylinder, for example. Then once you've mastered those essential skills, then it becomes one of mental approach. And my mental approach is to do everything slowly. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. The more you try to slow things down, just do one thing at a time, the more accurate your skill execution is going to be. So ultimately, overall, you're actually going to complete the skill or the procedure or the drill or whatever it is in a faster, more efficient manner. And then if you keep practicing your skills over and over again in a nice, slow, controlled fashion, eventually they're going to become second nature. So you're not really going to have to think about them too much anymore when you execute them. So not only are you going to go through them easily and comfortably, and you're going to be efficient at doing them, so therefore you're going to be quite quick, but you're also going to have plenty of awareness left over for everything else that's going on around you, the big picture. You know, not just about yourself, but also about the rest of the dive team, the environment you're diving in, and all the other things that obviously matter during a dive. If you're having to still concentrate on your buoyancy, your trim, your propulsion techniques, using a reel, for example, if a lot of your attention is focused on that, then your window is very, very small. And really we need to master those basic techniques so that we can do those automatically, and now we're really there looking at the environment. The other things are just the skills that we have that are necessary to be able to dive safely and comfortably in that environment, but it should be as natural as walking or breathing on dry land. And we shouldn't have to think about every step we take or every breath we make. Obviously after that, then the next thing is just to go diving, is to get in the water and go diving as often as possible. I mean, you only get good at something by doing it over and over and over again. I'm very lucky that I get the chance to dive pretty much every day. I'm also very lucky that I get to teach and guide people all the time as well, because hopefully not only are they learning from me, but I learn from them as well. So, every time I teach a course, I learn something new. I get to practice the skills as well that I'm teaching to my students over and over again. So that makes my skill execution better, because I'm just repeating it all the time. So a lot of repetition by going diving, that's very, very important. The most important thing though, keep it simple, work on the fundamental skills, build a solid foundation, and you can put the more complex skills on top of it. Think about the skills you're doing, break them down into their component parts, do each part one piece at a time. When you've completed that thing, move on to the next step. Do it slow, that'll be smooth, and eventually you're going to find that you'll be able to execute these skills almost reflexively, and then you can just work on the mental aspect of diving.
What makes a good cave diver?
What makes a good cave diver? Well, first of all, being a good diver. Because unless you actually have good diving skills, then as you're diving, you're really going to be concentrating so much on your buoyancy and trim and propulsion techniques and things and use of the reel. You're not really going to be able to appreciate the cave environment. Your awareness is going to be very limited. So first of all, you really need to have very, very solid diving skills. And probably no matter how good your diving skills are prior to taking a cave course, when you actually take a cave course, you're going to discover that this environment is more demanding than the environments you've been diving in up until now. And it's really going to help you refine those skills and really master some of the intricacies of those skills, such as your positional awareness, for example, and your overall awareness for everything that's happening during a dive, not just about yourself and your own equipment, but also about the rest of the team, the guideline, exit direction, the cave environment itself, flow, direction, all those factors which you need to take into consideration while you're diving. Now, to be able to process as much information as you can from the environment you're diving in, you really need to have a lot of awareness for that environment. So if your awareness is distracted by other things, such as a piece of equipment that's bothering you or causing you some stress, or if you're struggling with a particular skill, such as your buoyancy or your trim or your propulsion techniques, for example, then that's going to drastically reduce the amount of awareness that you have for the environment that you're actually diving in. So what makes a cave diver? Going cave diving, getting repeated exposure to this very unique environment. For sure you can become a better diver diving anywhere, but you only become a better cave diver actually by diving in the caves themselves. And diving different caves, if you just dive in the same cave over and over again, then you become very good at diving that particular cave. Whereas if you're diving different cave systems, different entries, different environmental conditions, then you become better rounded as a cave diver. So if you can, travel, go to different cave systems, not just in one particular area, but also in different areas around the world. And the more chance you have to experience different environmental conditions, it's enjoyable, it's fun to dive different caves, but also the better you're going to become as a cave diver. For me, cave diving is more of an art form than it is a sport, and it's almost like a dance that you're dancing through the cave. It's like a ballet, for example, and you can almost imagine sort of like doing a dive and having it set to music. And that's how it should feel. It should feel very, very graceful. It should feel almost like it's being done in slow motion, that you're constantly aware of your surroundings and your position relative to those surroundings. So cave diving is really about finesse, it's not about force. You should never try to use brute strength to overcome any problems that you're having while you're diving. In the first place, you should try and avoid those problems through good awareness, but you always want to try and finesse things and do them as gently and in as controlled and efficient manner as possible. Any time during cave dive that you're feeling stressed, then something's wrong, and that's not how cave dive should really feel. Although sometimes the training could be stressful, and we always train for a worst case scenario, when you're actually diving, then it should feel very, very comfortable. We shouldn't really have any surprises or moments while we're cave diving either. Those are never good. And again, through proper awareness and through really thinking about what you're doing and having a clear plan going into the water and then actually diving that plan, you avoid any sort of unexpected surprises while you're diving. And that way you're going to enjoy the dive more, you're going to be safe, and you're going to keep coming back from the dives that you're making.
What makes exploration different from cave diving?
I don't think exploration is different from cave diving. I think it's a natural progression for those that want to take that path. And just as cave diving is not for everybody, so cave exploration is not necessarily for all cave divers. It's got to be something that you want to do. So as you're diving more and more in the caves, and as you're learning more about the environment, you start to understand how the environment works better. You start to understand the geomorphology, you start to understand the hydrology, you start to understand, exactly where you should be looking for more cave. So then as you're swimming through the cave, you see areas where you think, wow, it looks like there should be more cave over there. Maybe the water flow gives you an idea, or maybe you see a fault or a fracture, for example, running in a particular direction. So you go and have a look, and probably 9 times out of 10 someone's been there before you. And so when you head off in that direction, you find a guideline, and you start following that to a part of the cave that you've not been in before. So that means that you're exploring. Anytime you go into a new cave or a new section of cave, even if there's already existing permanent guideline and people have been there before you, if it's the first time for you, you're effectively exploring that cave system. But eventually, as you're doing this, as you're looking around the cave and not just following the guideline, but actually learning to read the cave, then you're going to start seeing areas where you think there should be cave and I can't see a guideline. And eventually you're going to find parts of the cave where there is no guideline either, and then you're going to be laying guideline. And obviously if you lay the guideline, then it's very, very important to survey that guideline and report your survey data, and that's when you truly become a cave explorer. But not until you've reported your survey data.